I've been wanting to do this video for a really long time regarding mental health, but I'm gonna be very honest with you. I've been kind of scared and very nervous, and I just end up never doing it. Mostly because I just know it's just gonna end up being a bunch of clickbait news the next day, and it just really bothers me. Just the way that mental health is just dealt with in the media. But something that happened yesterday, and because of all COVID and the amount of stuff, and because of COVID and the amount of the way the mental health has been dealt with this past few months, I think I want to talk a little bit about it and my personal experience with it, and why is it so hard for me to talk about it, and how would I like the media to talk about it, and I want to demystify a little bit. Okay. And I know there's so many issues right now going on in the world, and in no way I'm trying to take the time away from them. I just really think this is a really important epidemic happening right now, and it's mental health. So let's start. Yesterday, Vogue Portugal posted this cover titled Madness, and in one of the covers it's this girl naked in the bathtub with two nurses, and it looks like it's in the mental institute, like from ages. It looks very like the old ages. It looks from one of those tortures mental hospitals. That cover was very triggering for me because of the way usually mental health is treated in the news, especially in Portugal, because of my own experience. The first time I talked openly about my own issues was when I started to have some panic attacks. I was in Paris Fashion Week, and I openly talked to my friends that I was having a hard time being in big crowds because I was having panic attacks being surrounded by a lot of people. And I had an incredible response from my fans, and I love you guys so much. I could not ask for better fans, but I was immediately followed by a shit ton of articles from Portugal press saying that my career was over because of my panic attacks, that my career was in danger because of my panic attacks, that my contracts were in risk because of my panic attacks. Obviously everything was false, but as someone that is going through really high anxiety and panic attacks, having to deal with that on top was very damaging, and makes you not want to open publicly. And then you have public people on TV saying, oh, she has no idea what panic attacks are, she's just trying to say things to get publicity and all that. It made me more damage to myself mentally. And what most people don't know, I was actually going through a really bad personal phase back then, way worse than panic attacks. I was going through a really bad period and not long after that, I was actually diagnosed with mild depression. Sorry, it's so hard. I was starting to get agoraphobia. I was officially diagnosed with trichotillomania. I was also had anxiety. What's it called? They have a long name for it, but I can't remember right now. And it was starting to be really hard for me to my work, and the depression was the hardest, and the anxiety, and always having to constantly be traveling and all that. But thank God I'm surrounded by people that love me, and my agent really set me down and says like, Sarah, you're not okay, and he got me to go see a psychiatrist. And I usually say I talk very openly with my friends and people close to me, and I usually say that like my psychiatrist saved my life. Not that I was never suicidal. I actually had the opposite. I started being very scared of dying, and that's kind of like a little bit like the agoraphobia. So I was just like, every time I get out of the house, it's a little bit of like OCD thoughts. All I could think of was like everything that could kill me. So that's what so that was what it was in my mind. I would be in planes, and all I could think was like, oh my God, this plane can crash right now. And that thought would just keep going until I would like have a panic attack, and that would have gone for months. So yeah, I started seeing my psychiatrist. I started having therapy. I went on meds, which have been life-saving. It's like I feel like I'm myself again. So yeah, I've never really opened. I've always wanted to open about it because I've always wanted to tell people how, there's no shame of going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or having like mental issues. But I feel like every time I open about things like this, I'm completely like, the press in Portugal completely like uses this as a way to like say that my career is over, or say that like when I come out with trichotillomania, they were like, oh, I have a very severe mental issue, and they just use very really damaging clickbaits to describe me, which they're just trying to sell. But for someone that is dealing with anxiety and depression, all these things are very triggering, and it's very easy said and done. Just don't read them. Just don't but it's just hard not to. You have people sending to you, you just see, you tag on some stuff, and it's just hard to avoid them. And they're just there. And then I have like my grandmother reading, and then she calls my mom, and she's like all upset, and you have to all deal with that. And then you have people with big shows on TV just full on attacking me on TV, and my grandmother watching them, and then she gets like super upset, and then it gets me upset. So it's just like there's just so much that goes into it. So when I saw that cover yesterday, and they're like, let's talk about mental health, and then it's a cover, it's called Madness, and then he has this mental health hospital that it's like the crazy house, how they used to call back then, and with like the ice bath treatment back then. It was just very triggering how Portuguese news usually tend to deal with mental health. And I think I see it in America. It's getting better. I see there is like more people coming out, and I see that there is a little newspapers and magazines are starting to be a little more careful the way they talk about it, which is amazing to see. But I do see there's so many magazines in Portugal that still use those clickbait titles and articles to, and those are very damaging, like not just for me but for everyone that suffers from the same thing and then reads those things and then feel like they can't look for help because they'll think they're crazy, or they think people will think less of them. And mental health is very, very serious. Like during COVID, there's been a spike in suicides, and suicide is just keeps rising and rising and rising, and it's a very serious thing. It's not something that it's a clickbait, and it's not something to be glamorized. Like mental health is not something that should be glamorized, and it's definitely not something that should be touched in an unresponsible way. And this is why, like, I wanted to do this video, and like it says I don't, anyway, I probably know tomorrow there's going to be a bunch of clickbait articles about it, and my message is going to be lost. But I just want you to know there's so many ways that you can get help, and that meds could be life-saving, and going to a doctor can be life-saving. There's no shame to go see a psychiatrist, a therapist, to ask for help. There is generation taboos here, because, and I see it in my own family, it's hard to get sometimes a grandparent or a parent to go see a psychiatrist or a therapist, but keep trying. Just keep trying. Try to see documentaries with them. Try to get them to read books. Try to, I don't know, just try your best. But I just want you to know that you are not alone. You are not crazy. And mental health is so common. And if we go see a doctor, if we break an arm, or just to check up every year, why shouldn't we check up our mind? Like, we use our body every day. We use our mind every day. And with everything that is going on in the world, it's obviously that our minds are also gonna fried sometimes, you know? Like, there's so much going on in the world that we just sometimes don't know how to deal with, and some minds are just a little bit more fragile than others, and we just need to take care of ourselves. And there's no shame in asking for help. There's no shame in admitting it. And so yeah, I've been very vocal in getting my family and my friends. I've been very annoyed to some of my closest friends to go do therapy. I've had friends being very annoyed to me to make me go to therapy. And I do gotta say, I owe so much to my agent Ali, because he was the one that set me down, and he was like, you are not okay. You are gonna go see, I made you an appointment, you are gonna see a doctor, and I think you need more people like that in your life. And yeah, so stay healthy. Black lives matter, mental health matter, and trans lives matter.